into the unpredictable. And if I see it happening and the motion is moving me, why am I standing still? I don't wanna wake up one day and wonder if this is all I'll ever be. No, I don't wanna look back and think that I missed it, and fear it got the best of me. No, I don't wanna wake up when it's over. No, I don't wanna wake up when it's over.
We've all started somewhere, far away from each other, but in a similar vein or a similar context. And just to bring all these stories and experience together is just priceless.
So a song like We Are the World, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, was extremely significant in its space and time. What they put out as an ethos was exactly that. Yeah. They managed to transcend everything to try and achieve a goal, and they used song as a method.
Like this chunk and period of our lives, like I know we don't live like it, but we will be history.
I got used to the idea of Tree not having really achieved as much as I thought it did.
So I was thinking, okay, raise of hands. I'm gonna put John on the spot. Okay, if John Ellis was part of your upbringing or influence.
Heading off to the first day of the Echoes Colab. Still can't really believe that all these big cats are pulling into our studio and going to make some magic happen. I'm very intrigued to see how it all comes together. So excited. Day one, here we come.
It's okay if we end up throwing around 3 ideas.
Yeah.
And see which ones we feel like it's really going to work. I think we can do that in one.
Because, you know, my wife was thinking about Sosa and kind of praying for Sosa, and she was like, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if you pull the DP out of this thing. Yeah, you know, songwriting is a bit strange. You start to loop on yourself, you know, so you think, okay, let me hear it again, let me hear it again, let me hear it again, and the exit of that part is just like, it's like a brick wall. That's the mindset that you gotta get through. So like someone like Dana, like you can see she does this for a living because she knows she's gonna get through it. You know, the belief that something's gonna come.
Because we're all sussing out the way this is working, like the 3 stations, and we're all sort of adjusting. I'm feeling a little bit timid, still a bit shy, and a little bit insecure and sensitive. I kind of just want to rid myself of that slowly, which is happening, but it's also
You want us to do like an affirmation circle? Let's just all sing our favorite Steve song.
Yeah, it won't hurt. That's like one of my greatest fears in life, is that one day, like 3 of my friends will sit me down and just tell me like, I'm actually not that great of a guy or anything really. It's an irrational fear, but it used to be more powerful than it is now. Like I've just been patted on the head my entire life.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good boy, such a good job. You're doing so good.
With art being so like vulnerable, the collab space is quite tricky because now you're going, Dana, do you like this?
And I don't even know if this is like a starting place for us or if it's really just like a more of a tonal kind of idea. But I kept hearing like this one line of like, I don't want to wake up one day. And then whatever that follows from. And I just was thinking about like, what are the motivators? What are the personal things? What are the spaces that we find ourselves in that like would be that one line for each and every one of us? Like, I don't want to wake up one day and what?
I mean, that's enough to just go. Yeah. That vocal idea and that lyric is enough to jump in.
I think the story is always so important to me. You know, I think that like, it feels like a puzzle. It feels like there's something that should be being said, and it's like a, I don't know, it's like a treasure hunt. Like I'm trying to figure out what that one perfect phrase is every time.
Obviously, South African radio and any radio, like it's cool. I just was feeling like limited, and I was like, why am I writing for radio when like the audience online is so much bigger. Obviously, if you write a cool song and it fits on radio, that's amazing. I just realized, what am I actually doing?
Yeah.
Like, why am I trying to do this? And I was listening to all my favorite artists, and I was like, they didn't write, like, maybe some of the songs fit on radio, but you can hear that it wasn't people, like, they just made stuff that they liked. Most of my favorite artists who are super successful don't even play on radio.
In the beginning, all the songs I would write would be about like angsty stuff, like especially relational stuff. Girls write about relationships, all that stuff. But then now it's different because your life has moved on and everything's good, you know. I have a good life now. And I actually find like it's almost a little bit trickier to write songs out of a space of like, for me anyway, just of just a good place.
And it's just, I don't know, it's just freeing. For me, it was more freeing to just be happy in that creative space and not worry so much about whether it was going to make money, but just kind of have that freedom to explore my abilities. That's all I wanted to do, and then kind of figure out later how that would work in a business sense.
When you're writing, is there a sense of that process with you, or is it calculated, or? You know?
No, jeez. At the end of the day, like my bottom line as a musician is I'm a fan of music. All I've ever wanted to do with music is make other people feel the way I felt when I heard this thing. I mean, I can still remember the goosebumps I got when I heard John Lennon and Paul McCartney's harmonies in one song. When I suddenly got the Beatles, that just completely opened my life up. And I felt the same when I heard Bohemian Rhapsody, and then some U2 stuff. All I really wanted to do was just say something. That's all I really wanted to do. I didn't feel like it was enough to entertain people. I played shows recently where I'm just up and guitar player in a show band and playing covers, and it's fun because you plug in the electric guitar and make a noise. But people are there just to be entertained and get drunk and go home. And I always felt like there's something more to life than that. Say something of value, change someone's life, you know, like inspire them. You know? Because that's what I got from U2 when I was a kid. It like changed my life. Yeah. It didn't just entertain me. I didn't want to get up and dance and drink something. It made me want to go change the world. You know? That's what I wanted to communicate. And I was like, looked around. Oh, I'll use this guitar.
We had a really profound thing after a show, actually. We've got a song called Hello Sweet World, and it was the first song we ever had a #1 on. We walked off stage, and there was this dude standing kind of backstage next to the fence, and he called us over and he said, "Mom, so-and-so, you'll never ever meet me again, but I just got to tell you that a month ago I was about to take my life. This is wild." And he said, "Your song came on my radio, whether it was in a playlist or whatever it was," and he said, "I just put on loop for 6 hours straight." And he says, "Yeah, I stand before you." We were standing there going, like, what do you do with that? That's like, it's wild. And you start to think how many other stories that would happen that so many artists never ever will ever hear. Because I don't think that's like an isolated case.
I was personally moved and changed by music as a young person, you know? And it just naturally made me I want to do that too, you know? Not, I need to learn this music so I can become better at this in my career. It was genuinely like, I was just floored by music. So every time I write, something of that's in there, of like trying to grab that little bit of DNA and put it in this thing. It sounds so noble, but there were a couple times in America where I'd write, you get a batch of 30 or 40 songs together over a few years and you present them, which is basically like standing naked on the stage and going, so what do you think? It's hard for a writer, right?
It's hard. It's the hardest thing ever.
You're exposing literally everything you have. So one particular album, we submitted a record and the guy was like, there's no singles here. And you're like, well, no, and this writing's not really strong. And you're like, excuse me, I've just bled 12 months for this. The label guy goes, would you be interested in singing and recording this song by this other guy? And I listened to it and it was, from my personal point of view, it was a really weak song. And I went, okay, so he thinks this is better than what I've written. So I'm gonna go write something like this thing. And then he can compare it. And I went off and wrote almost like a parody of the song he preferred. And they chose my song over it, which was great. But the point is that song I wrote wasn't organic. It didn't come from a good place. It came from a place of trying to compete. It won the day and it made the record popular. But that was the one time where I wrote something that was calculated. And I always felt a bit crappy about that because people have said to me that they like that song, and I go, if you knew where it came from, I don't know, you know.
But knowing your story, that was almost like the first vial of poison that you created, and
that was the first
it was almost like a subconscious Sabotage. I mean, Surly, was that a turning point?
I think about that often, and I think, why did I do it? And I remember at that time, this is 2003, Tree 63 is a going concern that kind of come to an end in America.
You were I kind of think that Tree was a necessity for the future.
Yeah.
You know, like if you just look around the table, how many careers it birthed.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's really, I mean, that for me was like really interesting because, and I said to you that I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised in how many people based some of their decisions around watching you play and connecting with your music, and your band set life courses.
Yeah,
that's the legacy.
It wasn't just like, oh, he has a good songwriter, it's inspirational. It was more his journey that was like so, like up until that, I hadn't really known of South African guys who had managed to go overseas and write songs that like did really well.
It's hard to hear. And I think Steve's in the same place. For me, my whole life was about writing songs and playing guitar, and I wanted to communicate something with songwriting, right? And then a couple of years back, I felt like that it was over, and I haven't written the song for 2 years now, 2.5 years, whatever. I don't feel like an artist anymore, and I feel good about it. I feel like a bit of a relief that I'm not having to push an agenda and compete with other people and be really competitive with my creativity, you know. And so hearing this is kind of, it's really, really gratifying because, like I said, whatever I did try to do, I felt like it always just missed the mark, you know, like it always just fell short of what we're trying to do. And I'm proud that we tried, but it didn't, for me, it didn't succeed, you know.
You know, it's not about like money, it's not about any of that stuff. Like, it doesn't actually matter, especially with social media and stuff. Like, you're always comparing yourself. It's like a race, not for like trying to make the best music. It's a race for trying to get numbers, trying to beat the other person. And like, I've just realized that, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to realize this. Like, I'm only 21, but the battle that I'm trying to face every day is like just to forget about that crap and just stick it to the man and just make music that you want to make, you know? I would rather not have music as my full-time career. Like, I would rather just make music for, like, on the side for fun, music that I really love, than like sell my soul and like just like it doesn't make sense.
I got used to the idea of Tree not having really achieved as much as I thought it did. And then it was like a springboard for other people. Like, oh yeah, they were cool at Sunday school. You know? That's how...
Wow.
I would never have thought that to be where I am now, which I don't even know where that is, but would have cost so much. Because nothing comes easy. The older you get, if you've come through some stuff and it's cost you, you're probably on the right track.
Do you feel like you mourned your career?
Yeah.
Like a loss?
Yeah, big time. It seemed to just end overnight. And I suddenly was no longer able to do something I've been doing for 10 years and invested my money and in time and you know, and suddenly it was gone. And I clung onto it for a long time, but it really felt like the door was closing, you know. Yeah. And so yeah, eventually I was grieving over it. I'm at a point in my life as a guy, as a man, where I'm trying to find out my identity apart from music.
As a performer person, very quickly the lines get blurred.
Yeah, big
Every
time.
conversation becomes an interview.
Mm-hmm.
You are intrinsically now tied to the persona.
Yeah.
And when the persona gets, I think it does have an internal effect on you.
And it's a necessary thing for everyone to go through, but it's not something you really want to encourage people to do, because sometimes the answers are not things you expect, and then it might pull you away from music. Which is why so many musicians don't make it out the other side, because when the persona is suddenly taken away or put on hold, you realize you don't know who you are apart from it. That's dangerous. I've learned on the hard way, and there's no way to tell people about that, because it comes across like, watch out, bro. You're on shaky ground and it's not going to last forever, and you know. You don't want to discourage people.
Never want to, yeah.
But the fact is that question's waiting for you. And for everyone, accountants, firemen, musicians, who are you underneath who you think you are? I think that's what I struggled with coming back from America. Was I came back really angry and frustrated with normal industry stuff. But because I was a believer, I was wrestling with this tension between my frustration professionally and what I expected from God, my faith. My thing was just be real, you know. So when you come home and act kind of human, it doesn't go with the storyline that they're expecting. I had already stopped perceiving how I was being perceived in the community. So I said a few things in interviews that were really so dumb. I've had what I would call the luxury of failure. And then you add the music component to it, and you talk about loss. And we could easily sit around the table just going, hey, you know, you were number one once, you were number one, how awesome, and it's cool. That's a legitimate part of all our careers, you know. But if there's nothing more than that, then it's just music and talent. But the fact is, all those people around that table were gathered to kind of look deeper at each other and draw something deeper out of each other's lives. I was so grateful that people said what they said. Because even though I feel like I've moved as a person beyond just wanting to be a musician, I still wanted to know, probably still wanted to know that it was worth something, you know? 100%. So that's what those guys reaffirmed for me, that it was worth something. I almost feel like Tree was a career someone had once, I don't know, oh, that was me. For me, I feel like whatever I set out to do with Tree, it was a failure. It's true.
No, it's weighty, dude. It's so far from the truth, man.
Dude, that's what I live with. That's what I lived with.
I need you to know that's so far from the truth.
Yeah. I have like this file of like my kind of like actual CDs that I hold on to. I have one of my Tree like CDs in there, you know, because I remember immigrating to the States and like nobody cares about South Africa and being like, oh yeah, but everyone knew who Tree was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So much of music is sitting in an airport, sitting at 4 o'clock in the morning on a bus, eating pizza and only playing for an hour, you know, working an hour in a week and waiting. There's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And it's so fun when you're 18. But when you suddenly get to your 30s and you're like, it's a tough life. I remember walking around at some gig in America, and I was exhausted, man. I was just like physically exhausted from the travel, emotionally just like spent. You know, there's so much playing and giving and not getting a lot out of it. And going and praying. I remember saying these words: God, there's got to be more to life than this. Please find me something to do that's better than this. And you come back and it's all over, and you go, what was that about?
Yeah.
You know? To hear that there is something there that people drew from, it's like it's really satisfying. Tree was excluded from the South African music story because of what we stood for.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and to this day, people won't mention Tree as a legitimate band because no, they write us off as, they were Christian guys. And I got that a lot from music industry people. When I did the solo thing, I went away from the Christian music thing and just into the mainstream. You know? Like people wouldn't hire me because they thought I was the guy from Tree. He's religious, you know.
Wow.
It's true. I mean, I'd go online and see these online histories of South African music from the 60s and 70s, all these great people who pioneered stuff in the 70s and the 80s. And then expecting to see at some point at least a mention of, these guys from Durban, you know? Yeah. But they wrote us out. And I was like, as a younger guy, I felt the ego would be like, you know? But I get it now. The fact is, we still took music into a foreign environment and won them over.
We're starting to see something come from here. I'd love to see more of it, that's all I'm saying.
I felt like this is the beginning of something. And I know the project was to come together and produce a song and everyone go their separate ways, but I think it was inevitable that people would make connections.
Yeah.
Because it's just such good people, such talented people.
We're actually learning about how connected we actually are.
The music industry, the business of it, is always relational. And you never know whose path you're gonna cross again, and you never know where you're gonna find yourself, and it serves as the reminder of, at the end of the day, this is about relationships, it's about people.
This chunk and period of our lives, I know we don't live like it, but we will be history, and I really hope that we say stuff that reflects what was happening in our time. Because I do think South Africa has so much to offer the world. So many lessons to teach the world. You know, I think sometimes we play like the underdog. Like, and I can't wait for the triumph of the underdog. You know, we just be able to say, actually, we do have a voice, and actually, we have a lot to teach you, world. You know, of just what we've come out of and what we're going through. We've got something to teach you guys as well. As individual artists, like I really would love to see that happen, and I can't wait for the stuff that's going to come out of us in our careers, in our different careers.
Without you, there's no me. Without me, there's no us. Without you, there's no me. Without me, there's no us. It's not about you, yeah. It's not about me, no. It's all about us, yeah. Without you,